A violent attack unfolding at House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's Pacific Heights home. Just before 2:30 a.m. Friday, investigators responded to calls for a well-being check and found Pelosi's husband, Paul, fighting off an intruder with a hammer.
The suspect pulled the hammer away from Mr. Pelosi and violently assaulted him with it.
Police Chief Bill Scott says the intruder is 42-year-old Berkeley resident David DePepe. He was arrested shortly after officers arrived on scene. Sources close to ABC 7 News say DePepe confronted Paul after breaking into a door on the side of their home, yelling for Nancy's whereabouts before violently assaulting him with a hammer. Paul was immediately transported to San Francisco General, where he underwent surgery to his head to repair a skull fracture and severe injuries to his right arm and hand.
People have been begging me, Brandon, please, when are you going to do a video about Paul Pelosi and this whole situation between him and this homeless lunatic? Let me just say this. There are some things that seems incredibly suspicious, but I'm not jumping off the cliff and saying that this is completely a made-up scenario like Justice Smollett. I'm not willing to jump that far off the cliff, but there's a lot of suspicious stuff here. And as a former police officer, I have a lot of questions that have not been answered as it relates to what really happened at the Pelosi's house. First thing I want to say, I'm going to go through the levels of suspicion. I don't understand how the third person in line for the presidency of the United States of America actively working right now, meaning that if president, vice president go down, the House Speaker will be the president of the United States. The third person in charge of our country, in line of succession in our country, her family don't have Secret Service protection. I'm not getting how that makes any sense. The president of the United States, they have Secret Service protection even when they're not the president anymore. Not only do they have it, their wives and their children have Secret Service protection. Barack Obama's family is being protected by the Secret Service as we speak. So is President Donald Trump. They have protection for life. And while they're actively a participant in our government, they 100% have protection. So how in the world is Nancy Pelosi out of town and her husband has zero protection? As if he wouldn't be a target of an assassination attempt or somebody who would kidnap him in order to get to Nancy Pelosi. So that's number one. That's crazy. And I would think it's crazier than two left shoes. Number two, there's a picture, and I don't know if we got the picture of Nancy Pelosi's home, but if you have it, put it up on the screen for my people in the back. There's a picture of Nancy Pelosi's home and the area in which they believe forced entry occurred. If you look at the picture, it's like a back door, and the glass is all outside of the door, not inside of the house. If you look at it, it looks like the glass was hit and glass fell right down in front of the door. Now, could a person has punched the glass and then pulled it back through, causing glass to fall right at his or her feet? That is a possibility, but it doesn't seem to be likely. It appears that the glass was bashed in from one side and all the glass shattered and landed on the opposite side of the door. But somehow that's supposed to be the place in which there was forced entry made. Now, that is suspicious. And then here's another thing that's suspicious is the 911 call. Now, we don't actually have the call from Paul Pelosi to 911, the 911 operator. We have a call, or at least the recording from the dispatch, as the dispatchers are dispatching officers to the scene, and dispatchers are reporting to officers over the air, you know, what the RP is saying, which is the reporting party, what the reporting party is saying as they're en route. Now, how in the world is the dispatcher's audio release, but not the 911 call from Paul Pelosi? Both of those things are occurring through the same system. Why is one apparent, not the other? And why isn't the transmission from officer to officer not on the recorded line? It almost seems that they have left out information. They leaked some and didn't leak the other ones. But we have the recording of dispatch, 911 call taker, and the relaying of the incident to police. We have it on the record. So if you guys can get that ready, and we'll play that record for you guys to listen to it. Roll the clip. We may not have the record ready or the recording ready. It's not ready yet. They'll let me know when it's ready. So let me just talk through it, and then you'll hear it for yourself. So I want to explain this to the people who may not know about policing, and I'm not saying this is congruent across every police department in America. If you are in policing and you understand how 911 call takers and dispatch works. So typically, and I believe this is probably consistent across the board, but maybe some police departments do different things. On our police department in Tucson, Arizona, there was a 911 call taker and then there was a dispatcher. Those are two different people. Therefore, when you call 911, you don't talk to a police dispatcher. You talk to a 911 call taker. And you are communicating with the 911 call taker. They're talking to you. They're saying, sir, what's your issue? Where's the gun? Is there anybody else in the house? Are you armed? They are having a dialogue. And while they're dialoguing with the 911, the person calling 911, they are sending a message to dispatchers. They're sending a message to dispatchers. Copy that. And the dispatcher is conveying the message from the 911 call taker to police. So if a person is calling in and says, somebody got a knife and they're trying to kill me, the 911 call taker will send a dispatcher and say, hey, a man with a knife attempted to kill the RP. The dispatcher gets that immediately, and dispatcher calls for code 3. They'll hit the tone, and it'll say, boop. You're going to hear it in the 911 call. They'll hear it go, boop, and it says, units copy, a level 1 man with a gun. Or if they're dispatcher to call and the status begins to be upgraded, which means that we have multiple callers calling in, the call takers would then send a message to dispatch and say, hey, we have multiple callers calling in. It seems like a violent situation. Dispatch could then say, hey, they'll hit the tone. It'll go, beep. We're upgrading this call to level 1 man with a gun call. Callers are calling in saying that this and this and this and that. So I just want to paint the picture for you guys that when you call 911, the dispatcher isn't hearing you. The dispatcher isn't necessarily answering your call. They're conveying what you're saying to a dispatcher that's communicating with police. So let me play this clip so you can see why I'm suspicious about the Pelosi clip. Roll the clip.
A priority 910, 2640 Broadway, cross of Scott and Normandy. Hey, 14 hour copy. RP stated that there's a male in the home and that he's going to wait for his wife. RP stated that he doesn't know who the male is, but he advised that his name is David and that he is a friend. RP sounded somewhat confused. 12 over back and copy.
Units code 3 to 2640 Broadway per 14 hour.
Cover 12 over copy. 15 hour also code 3.
Everyone call the licensed sufficient units on scene 2640 Broadway. Special call medic 66, location 2640 Broadway.
All right, so then the emergency tone goes off. I don't think we had the full clip there, but the emergency tone goes off, and you could hear that they upgraded it. Police were going code 3 to the scene, all of the above. Now, let me explain this to you, because in the media, they want to tell you that Pelosi was speaking in code, and he was so stunning and brave. Was he or was he not? I mean, it remains to be seen. I don't think that that's the case. And then they talk about the dispatcher saying, oh, this person's instincts and intuition told them there was more to the story. But what they're not telling you is that they are not letting you listen to the 911 call because there was an open line. So after Pelosi got on and he had made certain statements to the 911 call taker, he left the line open, and then he started arguing with the suspect. And that's when they realized there was more to the story than that. It says that the RP is saying that he don't know the person and that this person is waiting on his wife and that, that this person is in his house. Now, it doesn't need a lot of interpretation to realize that this is a pretty serious call. The person is calling in from Nancy Pelosi's house. This is her husband saying that there's a man in his house whom he don't know that's waiting on his wife. Instantaneously, you would think that would be enough to have officers running code 3 and dispatcher saying, hey, we need to ramp it up. This is, it's an unknown male at the Speaker of the House's home while she's not there and her husband is vulnerable and because there's no Secret Service. I don't think that it was Pelosi was talking in code and he was somehow in clutch in this situation. I don't think that's what happened. I think they heard arguing in the background. It's at the Pelosi's residence. At some point, somebody realized this is at Nancy Pelosi's house. This is a serious situation no matter what it is. No matter what call, we need to respond to the Speaker of the House's location because obviously that's a heightened situation, given the fact that this person is particularly a politician. I got a lot more to talk about with the 911 call. Got a lot more to talk about as of when police officers arrived on the scene, how suspicious it was when they showed up. Hold the phone. I'll be back after the break. The media is literally trying to blame Donald Trump and conservatives for the attack. Mind you, they forgot that a man went to Kavanaugh's house with a gun, zip ties, in an attempt to kill him. It was only probably by the grace of God that dude woke up mid-murder attempt and decided to turn himself in. He flew to Brett Kavanaugh's house to assassinate him. But, you know, liberals want you to believe certain things. But let me get back to the fact pattern. 911 call comes out. They don't tell you that there's background noise because Paul Pelosi left the line open and there was background noise, and the dispatcher, the 911 call taker, can hear that they're arguing. And let me make a clarification on 911 call taker and dispatcher. I don't know, sometimes they may patch in the 911 call taker and let them listen, but it's normally two different people. So the 911 call taker is hearing this, probably conveyed it to the dispatcher. The dispatcher upgraded the call and said, no, we need to go code 3. This is a serious incident. And then they try to make Paul Pelosi out to be a hero. They said he was talking in code. He was talking in code. He had made mention, now they don't play the video, but they had made mention that he had said that it was a guy he didn't know that was waiting on his wife, and that the guy was a friend, and that was supposedly him talking in code. And according to an article I read, it was because Paul Pelosi thought the guy was listening. Now, let me tell you how stupid this sounds. This is what makes this situation sound suspicious. We know that when the police officers arrived, both of them were in their underwear, and they were both wielding hammers at each other. But let's go back before that. Before cops got there, before hammers were equally distributed to both of them, what was going on? I want you to play this picture in your mind, because people don't know how to think through a process. They only see the final result and they make a decision. So this guy breaks into Nancy Pelosi's house. Let's just say that he broke in. What happened? Did he go to Paul Pelosi's room with no weapons? Because he must not have had a weapon, I would argue. Or maybe he did. And I'm assuming Paul Pelosi don't have a hammer next to his bed, right? So somehow they get into a confrontation where one guy either has a weapon and Paul Pelosi doesn't. The other guy doesn't have a weapon and neither one of them have weapons. And somehow the guy either has clothes on and he takes his clothes off when he confronts Paul Pelosi, or the guy showed up at Paul Pelosi's house in his underwear. These are weird scenarios that are occurring that we don't have answers for. So let's just give the more practical thing, right? The guy was a nudist. He probably showed up in his underwear. Paul Pelosi's at his own house, so I'm assuming he's laying in the bed in his underwear. But here's where it gets weird. What was the confrontation like? That the suspect apparently let Paul Pelosi go to the restroom, that then in the restroom is when he called 911 to communicate to them that he had an issue at the house. Now, mind you, I want you to process this. The guy either has a weapon and is trying to kill Paul Pelosi. He had made mention, according to the police report, where is Nancy? He's either leveraging Paul Pelosi to wait for Nancy to come back to the house, as if Secret Service is not with Nancy Pelosi and he's not going to get blown to smithereens. Either he's negotiating with Paul Pelosi as to waiting for Nancy to get home, because then he's going to kill the both of them, or he's attempting to kill Paul Pelosi. And for some reason, he's like, wait, dude, before you tie me up and kill me, I'm going to go in the bathroom without you, and I got to use the restroom. Let me go in the bathroom and use the restroom without you being present. And are you good with that? And the killer says, or wherever he was charged with attempted murder. And he says, yeah, I'm cool with that, Paul. I know I was getting ready to kill you or tie you up and hold you hostage, but I'm going to let you go to the bathroom one last time before you die. I don't think it'd happen like that. Hypothetically, let's say if it happened like that. Paul Pelosi's in the bathroom where he keeps his phone charged. He's in the bathroom talking on a 911 call. They say that he's speaking in code. He says that it's a guy in my house. I don't know who he is. He's waiting on my wife. And that's in code? That's a code. The guy's listening to you say, a man is in, who you think you talking to? A man is in my house. I don't know who he is. His name is David. What code are you speaking? Any person that's had the intent to kill you is hearing you on the phone in the bathroom saying, a man in my house whom I don't know waiting on my wife. He's waiting on my wife. That's not going to trigger a murderous suspect to say, look, this fool's probably on the phone with the police. Okay, if that ain't suspicious, he's in a thing. He calls the police. The police send there 2 minutes from the time he called to the time the police officer got there. Now, think about this for a minute. He leaves the line open. He's in the bathroom. Now, I don't know if the guy's in the bathroom with him or what. I mean, if the guy's in the bathroom, he's going to see the guy calling 911. If he's not in the bathroom, why would you leave the bathroom to go and confront the guy while the police are en route? Now, let me tell you about the bathroom, because his bathroom is not like your bathroom, unless you're listening to your multimillionaire or billionaire. His bathroom is not like your bathroom. It's not like he went into a room that has a sink and a toilet and a tub. And literally, if you swing your hand around, you can hit all 4 walls. He lives in a multi-million-dollar mansion. I guarantee you his bathroom is like a room. So he has to go into another room where his phone is charging. Unless he wants us to believe he has his phone charging in the guest bathroom downstairs next to the front door. I'm assuming that it's in his bedroom that he's charging his phone. He's probably in a room that has a sink and a bathtub and closets in it. That's how a master bedroom in a multi-million-dollar facility looks like. So he somehow is either in there with the suspect or not with the suspect. He leaves the bathroom, and now he's in a confrontation with a guy. Somehow Paul Pelosi gets a hammer in his hand, and the other guy gets a hammer in his hand. And when the police get there, and this is 2 minutes between the 911 call to when police confront the situation, they both have hammers in their hands. The police give them a command to drop the hammers. They drop the hammers, and then the guy picks up or grabs the hammer from Paul while the cops are there and start hitting him with the hammer. Now, cops didn't shoot him, but somehow they end up tackling the guy, detaining him. Paul Pelosi had to go to the hospital where he underwent surgery. He had head injuries and other injuries, but he's due to recover. We'll talk about it more in the next segment because it gets weirder from here. Let me get back to Paul Pelosi. Paul Pelosi and them got caught in their underwear. Police said when they arrived on scene, and this is 2 minutes after the 911 call came out, when they arrived on scene, they both had hammers in their hands, in their underwear. And so you got to process this. Like, how does a man break in your house? You are in your underwear. He's in his underwear. Somehow you make it to the bathroom to call, but you don't stay in the bathroom. You come out of the bathroom and get into a confrontation altercation with this guy. Somehow he has a hammer. You go find a hammer, or he gives you a hammer, and y'all face off with a hammer. That's why this is so suspicious. It's like, could there be a burglary attempt and all these things happen? But it's just weird. How do you and another man got a hammer in your hand? How did you call the police and 2 minutes later both of y'all got hammers in your hand? You don't need to call the police if you got the hammer. How's the suspect trying to kill you let you go to the bathroom to call 911? And you don't stay in the bathroom to protect yourself. Okay, now that we've gotten past the weird, suspicious parts, let's get into the people who are at play. We know Paul Pelosi has gotten a DUI earlier this year, and we know that these Pelosi's are crooked people, in my personal opinion, based on the rhetoric that they spew. It's just they're suspected of insider trading. And you know Nancy Pelosi is just a devil, ripping up the speech of President Donald Trump. I mean, she's just a devil, in my opinion. Let's talk about the suspect. Now, I'm not going to say the guy's name because it's irrelevant. I'll call him the suspect. The suspect, they claim, is a right-wing extremist. Some of them are saying that he had rhetoric associated with QAnon on his social media platform. He had made reference to COVID-19 stuff. And you know, if you lean one side, somehow they assume you're a Republican. All of those little nuggets of information they have extracted, and they're now saying he's a right-wing lunatic. And because of the rhetoric from right-wing conservatives and Donald Trump, that's the reason why he went to the Pelosi's house. Now, I believe people should be able to sue the living daylights out of everybody who's saying this, because there is no evidence whatsoever to point to the reason why he actually did what he did. There's no motive. They're creating a false motive and blaming people in the process. Now, let's go to who this person is. Now, there's a young lady that came out that said that she was the suspect's daughter. And she had made mention on a blog that he had sexually molested her and her brother, who was both biological children of the suspect, and that the mom had left him when she found out about abuse. The mother also came out. It was written in the article, and she had said the guy had struggles with extreme mental illness. some of his neighbors at the house, which we have a picture of the house that his last known address, and it's literally filled with left-wing lunatic propaganda. They literally have Black Lives Matter written in the window. They got a gay pride flag that literally is a misrepresentation of the American flag, but with pride. They got marijuana everywhere. I mean, they literally got signs of every leftist starter kit home signs that you could think of. They had it at that residence. Now, a person living at the residence said that the suspect had lived there in over a decade. Other women have come out who knew him, who knew of the suspect. They all claimed that he was a left-wing nut job. And they said he was mentally ill, he was crazy, using illegal drugs, and he was a nudist. So none of that sounds like a Republican, conservative, far-right, right-winger. He even made mention that Jesus was the Antichrist. So that, to me, that doesn't sound much like he was a right-wing conspiracy theorist. And also on his social media, which they failed to mention, that he made mention of Stephen Colbert in 2006 roasting President George Bush, which is obviously that's against the Republican Party or against the Republican ideology. So you can argue that he has both, but the media only want to pick up on one. Now, I don't know how much time I have left, but I got 1 minute left. Okay, we can continue down this path. Pro-LGBTQ, all of the above. They said the house that he used to live at is a hippie house. Some women who have a more current information on the suspect said that he lived in a shack somewhere and that he was left-leaning. They believe he was left-leaning. So for the media to come out and act like as if this guy was a right-wing Trump supporter or something like that, I think it's just a mischaracterization of truth. Could he have been? Possibly. Could he have not been? Possibly. More likely. But his rhetoric from conservatives, from Republicans, the reason why he went off and did what he did, I highly doubt it. And these hypocrites on the left have no room to talk when all they do is push propaganda, and people have literally been hurt because of the things that they've said. Hold the phone. I'll be back after the break. They try to make it out to be that the suspect that attacked Paul Pelosi, they try to make it out that he's a right-wing conservative. And it's funny that they just doing it for the midterm election. It's sad. They really use a tragedy, what could have been a tragedy, to try to push right-wing conspiracy or left-wing conspiracy that right-wingers are out here compelling people to go kill other people. You know, it's just crazy. Everybody that talks about the suspect says that he was mentally ill. He struggled with he was on drugs. The guy was out of his mind. Now, the bigger question is, because I know a lot of conservatives are jumping off the cliff and saying, look, he said he was his friend. I mean, I don't know what that means. Could this guy have been let in and then let me just give you one theory. And I'm not saying this is exactly what I believe, but this could be a theory. If he invited the guy over, right? He invites the guy over and they gonna do some man-on-man action and they start taking drugs and it went south. Right? It went south. When the guy got mad, he started getting crazy. He started knocking out windows. And all of a sudden, Paul is in there. And of course, he can go to the bathroom because it ain't nothing crazy going on. But the guy's just tripping out his mind on drugs. And so is Paul Pelosi. And then it got real bad, and it got bad enough that he had to tell the police, but he couldn't tell the police exactly what was happening. He had to kind of fluff it around and just make it seem like, this and this is going on. And why would he say that, ladies and gentlemen? Why would he say that? Because there's this thing called a police scanner. And so if Paul Pelosi gets on there and say, I'm being attacked at my house by my gay lover or something of that nature, he tells the 911 call taker, they may dispatch that over the radio and it's on recording where people can listen to the police scanner. So he has to talk in code, not because he's coding what he's saying to the police, because he don't want to get killed by a suspect. He's coding it because he don't want it to get out there that he got a gay lover at his house and his wife don't know about it. Now, I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm saying that hypothetically, that could be a scenario because all of what I've been hearing is weird. I don't understand how people don't think this is weird. Like I said, I was a police officer. Like, I know that the way things are presented and things that the way they are in real life are completely different. I was asking for people in San Francisco, if you know any information, to let me know. If you know some people on the PD or something, let me know so I can get a glimpse of what's going on. So the conspiracies are not just out there floating around. But it just seems weird. The behavior of a burglar is to come and knock your window out, right? Knock your window out in his underwear. He's in his underwear, so I guess he's barefooted. Which there should be track marks from walking through the grass, walking up on to the balcony, and then walking from the outside to the inside. There should be clear track marks as to where he entered and how he got to the place he got to. And for the glass to be on the outside of the outside is weird to me, because it doesn't seem like it's big lumps of glass. It seems like it's small glass shattered and piled up on the floor outside of the house, which is weird. I'm not saying that it couldn't be possible. It's weird, because if you would knock a window out, normally you hit it from the outside, you hit the glass, and whatever you hit is going to shatter and fall on the inside of the house. You rarely see glass on the outside when forced entry happened from the outside. You mostly see the glass on the inside. Now, the only way that could be possible is if he raked it with something like pierced the glass, and then he raked it out towards himself to get the glass out, and then put his hand in and open the doors. I mean, that's the only thing I can think about. And then once he get in the house, you know, these people live in a mansion, ladies and gentlemen. Like, they live in a mansion. So you have to then have an articulable reason to say, once a man breaks in your house, he don't know where to go. Does he? He don't know how to get to the Pelosi's bedroom. And I guarantee you go in the house, the bedroom is not the first thing you hit in a multi-million-dollar house. And so the guy must be walking around his house, or you know, not unless Paul screams out, "Who is it?" And the guy's like, "It's me. I'll come to kill you." And Paul says, "Well, come to the bedroom, because my phone is up here, and I don't want to leave my phone. It's charging." You know, I know I'm being kind of superfluous, but it's very, very suspicious. As a former police officer from the outside looking in, I'm like, well, what happened? You can't just, it's not enough to just say a man broke in your house and hit you with a hammer and you call police and then they showed up. It's like, no. There's a lot that had happened. When was the break-in and when was the 911 call? That's important, because if the break-in was at a certain point and the 911 call was 2 minutes later, a minute later, or an hour later, that is a big difference. And there should be clear indications of when the break-in occurred and when the 911 call took place, because they've been speaking to the lunatic and they also been speaking to Paul Pelosi. So I want to know, how did that happen? Because if it was an hour, what were y'all doing for an hour? And at what point did you get the weapon in your hand? This is all on body-worn camera, ladies and gentlemen. At some point, this will be body-worn camera evidence. What point did you get the weapon? Where did you get the knife, the hammer from? I don't even have 2 hammers in my house. So how did he get 2 hammers? And I guess maybe he had a hammer laying around on the kitchen sink or something. I don't know. But how are both of y'all facing off with a hammer in your hand? And you're not running. All he has is a hammer. All you have is a hammer. And you're not running and locking yourself in a bathroom somewhere? Like what is happening here? If you had a hammer and he had a hammer, and he haven't assaulted you yet, right? You got a hammer, he has a hammer. If you go in the bathroom with the hammer, he has to break through the door to get to you. He has to break through the door to get to you. And by the time he banged through the door with a hammer, as soon as he opened the door, you can bang him on the head. So you would argue, why is Paul Pelosi squaring off with this guy when they both have hammers in their hands? And the assault didn't happen until after the police showed up. So the police told him, drop the hammer. And Paul Pelosi, I guess, complied. The other guy complied. But he dropped his hammer, grabbed Pelosi's hammer, and started hitting him with it. Now, how they didn't shoot this guy is beyond me. I'm surprised they didn't shoot and kill a guy. I mean, he's literally beating an elderly man with a hammer. I'll tell you the charges here in a second after the break, because they charged him with some very interesting things, and I think we need to talk about the charging, the way they charged him. Finishing off this Pelosi conversation about Paul Pelosi being attacked, very suspicious circumstances. Could have been a burglar that made his way into the residence and did all that stuff. It could be possible, but it's just very suspicious. It's cut and dry as Jussie Smollett, but it is kind of suspicious. It is suspicious. And it's funny how they're now using this, instead of getting to the bottom of what really happened, They're trying to use this as a political talking point. Hillary Clinton and her dead body self came out and made references that this was Trump and Republican rhetoric. And to be honest, these Democrats are far worse in rhetoric than Republicans will ever be. Donald Trump have never advocated violence. Democrats have advocated violence. They've advocated violence. I got the clip. I can't remember which clip number it is, but I think I got the clip of a montage of Democrats going out and literally spewing violent rhetoric, and they talk about Republicans. They got to be out of control. Let's use clip 2, and then we'll go from there. Roll the clip.
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about.
Would I like to debate this gentleman? And I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
You got to be ready to take a punch. You got to be ready to throw a punch.
You get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
Everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
Get up in the face of some Congress people.
It does you any good running away from Donald Trump. I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
How dare he say the things he does? Of course I want to punch him in the face.
Right.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
All right, that's good. That's good. I mean, the clip says it's 91 minutes of this. I don't know if that's a typo, but maybe it's 9 minutes, or maybe it's 1 minute. But regardless, it's still a significant amount of these propagandas, and this is just the older ones. I got newer ones too. Could play a whole montage of these Democrats literally saying punch people, attack them, get in the faces of Congress people. Like, the whirlwind from Chuck Schumer, where somebody actually went to, Brett Kavanaugh's house with a gun and zip ties ready to kill him. Thank God he changed his mind at the last minute and turned himself in, but he wanted to kill one of our sitting Supreme Court justices. Hold the phone, y'all. I'll be back after the break.